Most people wait for motivation to strike before they take action. They wait for that burst of energy, that magical feeling of inspiration that will push them to move. But the truth is, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the breeze. One day you're fired up to change the world, and the next day, even getting out of bed feels like a mountain. If you base your life on such an unstable force, your progress will be inconsistent and your goals will remain distant dreams. That's why I say discipline is far more powerful than motivation. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to do something you hate. It is about choosing what is necessary, even if it's not pleasant in the moment. When you are disciplined, your actions are not dictated by your mood or emotions. They are directed by clarity. Clarity of what you want, why you want it, and who you wish to become. With discipline, you show up whether you feel like it or not. It becomes a way of being, not a momentary push. Many people confuse discipline with punishment. They think it means being hard on yourself, being strict, or cutting out all joy. This is not discipline. This is self-torture. True discipline is an act of love toward yourself. It is saying, I care about my future enough to act responsibly in the present. When you start seeing discipline this way, it is no longer a burden. It becomes a path to freedom. If you look at nature, you will see discipline everywhere. The sun rises at the same time, the planets move in precise orbits, the seasons come and go with rhythm. This universe functions not through chaos, but through order. And we, as a part of this vast intelligence, must align ourselves with that order. Without inner discipline, we become chaotic. Our minds jump from one thought to another, our emotions rule us, and we become victims of our own compulsion. The beauty of discipline is that it builds momentum. The first few days are hard. You will resist. You will feel like giving up. But if you stay with it, even a little progress becomes fuel for more action. Eventually, the resistance fades and the habit becomes second nature. You don't have to push yourself anymore because you have already become the kind of person who simply does what needs to be done. Discipline gives structure to your time, energy, and attention. These three are your most precious resources. If you waste them on distractions, on impulses, on things that don't matter, life will slip away quietly. But if you harness them with discipline, even a few hours a day can become immensely productive. The difference between those who achieve great things and those who don't is often not talent or intelligence. It is the consistent application of effort over time. There was a time in my own life where I was drifting, doing things only when I felt excited or interested. The result? A lot of unfinished projects, scattered energy, and frustration. It was only when I consciously chose discipline over motivation that things began to shift. I started waking up early, not because I loved it, but because I knew it aligned me with a more powerful rhythm. I created small, non-negotiable habits. Daily reading, mindful eating, physical movement, silent sitting. Not glamorous things, but steady things. And slowly, they rewired my mind, sharpened my focus, and gave me the strength to follow through on my deeper goals. Discipline also cultivates self-respect. When you do what you said you would do, when you keep promises to yourself, your confidence grows. You no longer need external validation. You trust your own word. This internal integrity is a powerful force. It makes you walk differently, speak differently. You're no longer seeking motivation from the outside because you found a fire within that keeps burning. Another important aspect is the ability to delay gratification. Discipline teaches you to say no to the immediate in service of the ultimate. We live in a world that rewards quick pleasure, fast food, instant likes, binge watching. But none of these things lead to lasting fulfillment. When you practice discipline, you learn to pause, to breathe, to ask, does this serve my higher purpose? In that moment of pause, you reclaim your power. You are no longer a slave to your habits, you become the master of them. The best part is, discipline spills over. When you bring order to one area of your life, say your health, it naturally begins to influence other areas like your relationships, your work, your emotions. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. A person who shows up for the way you begin your day shapes the energy of your entire life. Most people wake up reacting to the world. The alarm rings and before their feet touch the ground, their hands reach for the phone. Notifications, emails, messages. Suddenly the mind is filled with noise. There is no space for clarity, no room for alignment. The day begins in chaos, and naturally it flows in the same direction. This is why conscious morning rituals are not just habits. They are a sacred start, a powerful act of self-alignment. A morning ritual is not just about what you do, it's about how you do it. It's about entering the day intentionally rather than accidentally, When you wake up and create even 15 minutes of conscious space for yourself, you are telling life that you are ready, not just to exist, but to participate fully. It is not about doing grand things. It is about doing small things with awareness. Even sipping a glass of water in silence can become a ritual if done with presence. When I began creating a morning ritual, it wasn't because I read it in a book or heard it in a podcast. It was because I noticed that on the days when I started in stillness, my mind was clear, my emotions balanced, and my energy stable. It became obvious that the way I enter the day is how the day responds to me. So I began experimenting with a set of practices that brought grounding and vitality into my morning. The first is waking up before the world does. There is something profoundly magical about the early morning hours. In the yogic tradition, this time is called Brahma Muhurta, the time of creation, when the energies of the earth are most supportive for spiritual and mental clarity. The air is fresh, the noise is minimal, and the mind is still untouched by the demands of the day. Even if it's just half an hour earlier than usual, waking up before the sun allows you to meet life rather than chase after it. The next element is movement. The body is your vehicle through life. If it is stiff, tired, or in pain, everything becomes harder. A few minutes of conscious movement, stretching, yoga, or even simple walking wakes up the body and brings your awareness into the present moment. It tells the body, we are alive, we are here, we are ready. It's not about burning calories, it's about activating life. Following movement, the breath becomes central. Just sitting down and breathing consciously, even for 5 minutes, has an immense impact on the nervous system. Most people breathe shallow and fast, which keeps them in a state of anxiety. But when you breathe deeply and slowly, you signal to the body that it is safe, that there is no emergency. This creates space in the mind, thoughts settle, emotions soften, and a deeper intelligence begins to emerge. Another powerful ritual is journaling or writing. When you write down your thoughts in the morning, especially your intentions for the day, you bring order to the mind. You may write questions, reflections, or simple gratitudes. This act of putting pen to paper creates a bridge between your inner and outer world. It becomes a way of speaking to yourself without noise, without judgment. Over time, these written words begin to reflect the evolution of your inner journey. Silence is perhaps the most underrated ritual. We are so addicted to stimulation, music, news, messages, conversations, that we have forgotten the nourishment of silence. Just sitting quietly, doing nothing, simply being can be profoundly grounding. In that silence, the clutter begins to dissolve. You begin to hear yourself, not the voice of fear, not the voice of the world, but your own deepest voice. This is where wisdom lives. I also include a ritual of intention setting. This is not wishful thinking or forced positivity. It is about choosing your direction consciously, asking yourself, how do I want to show up today? Who do I want to be? Not what the world expects, not what fear demands, but what your highest self is calling for. That simple act of setting an intention creates an inner compass. Even when distractions come, and they will, you know your center. You don't need a strict checklist or an hour-long schedule. You just need sincerity and consistency. Whether it is 5 minutes or 50, what matters is the quality of attention you bring. If your mornings are sacred, your days begin to unfold with a different energy. You are not just reacting to life, you are responding with clarity, with balance, with strength. Most people seek comfort. They build their lives around ease, predictability, and convenience. They want smooth roads, soft landings, and pleasant experiences. But the truth is, comfort never leads to growth. Nothing extraordinary has ever been achieved from a place of constant comfort. Discomfort is not something to be avoided. It is a sign that you are moving toward transformation. If you want to become more, if you want to rise beyond your limitations, you must learn to embrace discomfort daily. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is a signal that you are stretching beyond your current boundaries. It is the body's and mind's way of saying, we've never been here before. Whether it's stepping into a cold shower, speaking your truth in a difficult conversation, taking the first step toward a new goal, or pushing through one more repetition in your workout, it is in those moments of resistance that your real self is forged. Discomfort reveals to you what still controls you. It shows you where your fears live, where your laziness hides, where your self-doubt festers. There is a beautiful power in doing something hard every day, not to punish yourself, but to train yourself. Just as muscles grow through resistance, your character grows through challenge. Every time you choose to stay in the discomfort a little longer, something inside you strengthens. You develop a new relationship with pain, not as something to escape, but as something to understand and integrate. It is through discomfort that discipline is born. It is through discomfort that courage becomes real. One of the first practices I adopted to train this was doing one uncomfortable thing every morning. It could be as simple as waking up earlier than I wanted, taking a cold shower, or beginning my day with intense physical movement. The mind will always protest in the beginning. It will try to convince you that you deserve rest, that today isn't the right day, that it's too hard, too cold, too early. But that voice is not the voice of your potential. It is the voice of your past conditioning. The moment you learn to smile at that voice and act anyway, you reclaim your power. There is a subtle difference between pushing yourself and punishing yourself. Pushing yourself comes from a place of love, of belief in your own possibility. Punishing yourself comes from judgment, from a sense of not being good enough. This is not about becoming a machine or denying your need for rest. It is about consciously choosing growth over comfort when it matters. It is about creating an inner environment where effort is respected, not feared. The body loves routine and the mind loves safety, but the soul longs for expansion. When you keep choosing the easy way, you become stagnant. But when you deliberately challenge yourself, even in small ways, you awaken something primal and powerful within. This doesn't always mean doing extreme things. It means stepping outside your usual pattern. It means saying yes when fear wants you to say no. It means showing up when part of you wants to disappear. Some of the most defining moments in life come disguised as discomfort. The moment you speak in public for the first time. The moment you walk away from something that no longer serves you. The moment you take a risk that makes your hands shake. These are not just events. They are initiations. They are the thresholds between who you were and who you are becoming. But if you keep turning back every time you feel uncomfortable, you never cross that threshold. You stay trapped in a smaller version of yourself. What helped me was to stop labeling discomfort as bad. I started to see it as a form of inner fire, a necessary heat that burns away my weaknesses and reveals my strength. The moments I felt most uncomfortable were often the moments I grew the most. That hard conversation I kept avoiding, it made me more honest. That intense workout I wanted to skip, it made me more resilient. That new project that scared me, it made me more capable. Discomfort became my teacher, not my enemy. We live in a world that celebrates ease. We are sold convenience as the highest virtue. But this mindset leads to fragility. A person who cannot handle discomfort is easily broken. They give up quickly, they get offended easily, they quit when things get hard. But a person who trains themselves to face discomfort daily becomes unshakable. What you allow into your inner space determines the quality of your life more than anything else. People spend so much time cleaning their homes, maintaining their cars, organizing their schedules, but they rarely take the time to clean up their inner environment. Your mind, your emotions, your energy, these are sacred spaces. If you are not consciously guarding them, they will be filled with noise, negativity, and distractions that drain your life force. Guarding your inner environment is not a one-time act. It is a way of living with awareness. Every thought you allow, every emotion you indulge, every voice you listen to, it all becomes part of your inner atmosphere. If your inner environment is cluttered with fear, doubt, anger, or insecurity, no matter how beautiful the outside world is, you won't be able to experience it fully. You will keep projecting your own chaos onto life. But when the inner space is clean, calm, and sharp, even ordinary moments feel profound. Life doesn't need to change. You need to become receptive to its beauty. The first step to guarding your inner environment is to become aware of what you are consuming. Just like food affects the body, what you consume mentally affects your inner state. The news you read, the content you watch, the people you spend time with, these are not passive things. They are constantly feeding your mind, shaping your beliefs, influencing your energy. You cannot fill your mind with junk and expect clarity. You cannot surround yourself with complainers and expect peace. You must choose what enters your inner world as carefully as you choose what enters your body. This doesn't mean avoiding reality or pretending that everything is perfect. It means having the discernment to know what strengthens you and what weakens you. If something leaves you drained, confused, or heavy, it doesn't deserve a place in your mental space. That includes toxic relationships, negative self-talk, and even your own outdated stories about who you are. You have the right and the responsibility to protect your peace, not out of fear, but out of deep respect for your own well-being. Another important aspect of guarding your inner environment is watching your self-disarguer. The way you speak to yourself is the most consistent influence in your life. If your internal voice is always critical, always doubtful, always comparing you to others, it becomes a form of inner pollution. You must learn to speak to yourself with the same respect and encouragement you would offer to someone you love. This is not about ego. It's about cultivating a supportive space within yourself where growth can happen. Stillness is also a powerful guardian. When you regularly sit in silence, without distraction, you begin to notice what is happening inside you. You become aware of thoughts that are not yours, emotions that are just passing clouds, fears that are not rooted in truth. This awareness is the beginning of mastery. Most people are reacting to their inner world without even realizing it. But when you become the observer, you stop being a slave to every passing emotion. You gain the ability to respond, not react. One of the greatest shifts in my life happened when I stopped treating my inner state as accidental and started treating it as intentional. I began curating my inputs, simplifying my environment, and cutting off things that disturbed my peace. I made space for solitude. I practiced gratitude even when things were difficult. I stopped arguing with reality and started aligning with it. Slowly, the chaos within me began to settle. My thoughts became clearer, my emotions became more balanced, my energy became more consistent. You don't have to become a monk or escape to the mountains to guard your inner world. You just need to become more selective. Say no more often. Disconnect from things that don't serve your higher self. Create boundaries not to push people away but to protect your own alignment. Surround yourself with voices that lift you up, with ideas that challenge you to grow, with silence that allows you to hear your truth. Even your physical space affects your inner environment. Cluttered surroundings often reflect a cluttered mind. Clean spaces, natural light, fresh air, they all support clarity within. Nature is a beautiful ally in this process. Spend time in spaces that nourish your being. Walk without your phone. Eat without distraction. Speak less and listen more. These small acts are not just habits. They are acts of reverence for your inner sanctity. Above all, remember that your inner environment is your responsibility. No one else can guard it for you. People may offer you wisdom, encouragement, or tools, but it is you who must do the daily work. In a world that moves at lightning speed, where distractions are endless and decisions are made in a rush, most people live their lives on autopilot. They wake up, follow the same routine, respond to the same triggers, and repeat the same patterns day after day. Their actions are driven by impulses, fleeting emotions, outside pressures, the need for instant gratification. But when you begin to move with intention, everything changes. You shift from being reactive to being conscious, from being scattered to being aligned, from being busy to being purposeful. Intention is the invisible force behind every powerful action. It is not about what you are doing, it is about why you are doing it. Two people can do the same thing, speak, work, exercise, rest, but with entirely different energies. One moves with clarity, focus, and direction. The other moves out of habit, pressure, or fear. The quality of your life depends not on how much you do, but on how consciously you move through it. Intention turns ordinary acts into sacred ones. Most people don't pause long enough to ask themselves the deeper question. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Not the surface reason, but the real one. When you start examining your motives, you uncover so much about your patterns. You begin to notice how often you are driven by the need to impress, to escape, to conform. You realize how much of your energy is spent reacting to what others think instead of responding to what your inner self truly wants. Living with intention means reclaiming that energy and redirecting it toward what matters. When I started observing my own life through this lens, I saw how often I moved out of compulsion. I would check my phone without thinking, speak without awareness, agree to things I didn't mean, and chase goals I never questioned. It wasn't that I was doing wrong things. It was that I wasn't doing them with full presence. So I began to slow down. Before every action, I started asking, is this aligned with who I want to become? Is this coming from fear or from strength? Is this serving my peace or stealing it? This practice changed everything. I stopped multitasking and started monotasking, giving full attention to one thing at a time. I became more selective with my commitments. I stopped doing things just because everyone else was doing them. I stopped chasing results and started honoring the process. Life became less about ticking boxes and more about depth. Even simple activities like eating, walking, or listening became rich with meaning. When living intentionally doesn't mean controlling everything. It means being fully present with what you are doing and choosing your response instead of reacting blindly. It means recognizing that every moment is a choice. You can choose to rush or you can choose to breathe. You can choose to argue or you can choose to understand. You can choose to follow the crowd or you can choose to walk your own path. The power is always in your hands, but only when you are aware of it. Impulse is fast, reactive, and shallow. Intention is slow, steady, and deep. The more you choose intention over impulse, the more grounded you become. Your emotions become more stable. Your relationships become more honest. Your work becomes more focused. Your life begins to feel less like a chase and more like a conscious creation. People around you notice it too. They can feel your presence, your steadiness, your authenticity. A big part of moving with intention is becoming comfortable with stillness. Impulse hates stillness because it cannot survive in silence, but intention is born in silence. When you pause before speaking, before deciding, before reacting, you give yourself the gift of space, and in that space your deeper wisdom speaks. This doesn't mean you'll always make perfect choices, but your choices will be yours, not someone else's programming running through you. It's also important to know that intention is not static. It evolves. What felt right last year may no longer serve you now. So moving with intention means staying in a constant state of reflection, checking in with yourself regularly, not to judge or criticize, but to stay aligned. It's like steering a boat. You don't just set the direction once and forget about it. You keep adjusting, responding to the winds, the tides, the horizon. This way of living creates integrity between your thoughts, words, and actions. When there is harmony between what you think, what you say, and what you do, the quality of your life is determined not by what happens to you, but by how you respond to it. Life will always bring challenges. Unexpected situations, pain, loss, failures, and people who test your patience. But the one thing you always have control over is your attitude. Your attitude is not a reaction, it is a choice. It is the lens through which you experience the world. When you change your attitude, you change the meaning of your experience. And when you change the meaning, your entire life begins to transform. Most people wait for circumstances to change so they can feel better. They wait for success to feel confident, for others to treat them kindly so they can be peaceful, for the storm to pass before they choose gratitude. But this is living in reverse. True inner strength is the ability to choose your attitude even when things are not going your way. It's easy to smile when life is smooth, but the real test is whether you can keep your heart open when life gets rough. Choosing the right attitude doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means being rooted in something deeper than the surface of the moment. It means deciding that your peace, your clarity, and your purpose are not dependent on the weather of the world. You may not always feel positive. You may not always feel brave, but you can always choose to face life with an open mind, with a refusal to be a victim. One of the most powerful attitudes you can cultivate is that of responsibility. Not blame, not guilt, but responsibility. The ability to respond consciously. When something goes wrong, you can either complain or create. You can either get stuck in the story or rise into the solution. Every time you choose responsibility over helplessness, you reclaim your power. You stop being a puppet of life's events and start becoming a participant in your own evolution. Another key attitude is curiosity. Most people approach life with judgment. This is good, this is bad, this is success, this is failure. But judgment closes the mind. Curiosity opens it. When you are curious, even your pain becomes a teacher. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? This simple shift dissolves resistance and turns suffering into growth. Curiosity keeps you humble, open, and always evolving. Gratitude is another transformative attitude, not the kind of gratitude you write in a journal once a week, but a living sense of appreciation for life itself. It is possible to be grateful even in difficulty, not for the pain, but for the chance to grow through it. Gratitude doesn't mean denying pain, it means expanding your awareness to also include the blessings that exist alongside the pain. There is always something to be grateful for, a breath, a lesson, a new beginning. Patience is an attitude that very few people master, yet it is essential for lasting growth. We want results now, clarity now, transformation now, but life has its own timing. Seeds do not become trees overnight. Mastery does not happen in a month. Healing does not happen by force. When you cultivate patience, you stop rushing the process. You stop trusting the timing of your life. You give things space to unfold naturally, without anxiety or force. Patience brings grace. Another empowering attitude is humility, not the false humility of putting yourself down, but the genuine humility of knowing you are always a student of life. When you are humble, you stop needing to prove yourself. You become open to learning, to listening, to changing. You no longer need to be right. You want to be real. Humility softens the ego and allows wisdom to flow through. It keeps you grounded even as you rise. What shaped my own transformation was realizing that my outer world was simply a reflection of my inner attitudes. When I was stuck in blame, everything felt unfair. When I was stuck in fear, every step felt heavy. But when I began choosing strength, responsibility, gratitude, and presence, the same situations felt entirely different. Life didn't stop being challenging, but my relationship with life changed. There is no perfect attitude that fits every situation. But there is always a wiser attitude available if you pause and choose. You don't need to fake positivity.